All right, guys, we are now working on significant figures. Prior to this, I hope you've done the POGIL activity where you learned the why behind significant figures. And it's just to communicate how accurate of a number you measure. So if you measure something that's really, really accurate, you may have something that looks like this, 3.000 centimeters. That means you used a really, really good tool to measure. But if you measured something that was 3 centimeters, that wasn't a great tool. And so we communicate how accurate our measurements are by using significant figures. Now, there's kind of a rule, like rules that I guess you could say, that are set forth of how to determine which digits are significant. So rule 1, which is everybody's favorite rule, easiest rule, if it's not a 0, if it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, it's significant. The zeros are the tricky ones. The zeros are the ones that we have to worry about. So rule 1, super easy. As long as you have a non-zero number, it's significant. Okay, so here's an example for that. We have 3.1428. That means there's 5 significant figures. No zeros in that number. We have 3.14. That means there's 3 significant figures in there because there's no zeros. Okay, so that's rule 1. Rule 2, all zeros between significant digits are significant. So the key word is between. I call this my sandwich rule. I think I spelled sandwich wrong here. I don't know how to spell sandwich. Anyways, what that means is this 0 right here that I'm looking at, that 0 is sandwiched between a 7 and a 5, which is significant. And because that's the case, that means that those ones are sandwiched. And then the 3 is also significant because it's a non-zero digit. So there you go. So this one is the 7, the 5, and the 3. That's from rule 1. They're non-zeros. And then this 0 would be also significant because it's sandwiched, meaning the 7 would be the bread, and the 5 would be the bread, and the 0 sandwiched between them. Okay, so that's rule 2. Rule 3 says zeros to the left of the first non-zero serve to fix the position of the decimal as significant. So basically what this means is if you have a decimal and it's to the left of the first non-zero, it's not significant. Another way that I choose to look at this is if there is a number, let's say 0.001, like that, all of these are just placeholders. They don't count. But the next rule, which we're going to talk about right now, is if there's a 0 at the end of a number and there's a decimal. So those 2 factors, it has to be a decimal and the last digit, then it's significant. Okay, so when we look at this example here, this one just has the 5 and the 6. And these other ones are kind of placeholders. Okay. Looking at this example, the 7, the 8, the 9 are significant. Those 2 are just placeholders. Okay. These ones, again, just placeholders. This one is significant, so 1 significant digit. Okay. Rule 4 talks about digits to the right of a decimal place. So this is that rule that I kind of talked about. If there's a decimal and the last digit to the right, the last digit, which is always to the right because we write left to right, the last digit is a 0, then it's significant. So here we go, looking at this one. 43. Well, the 4 and the 3 are significant, so we have 2 significant digits. Okay. The next example, the 4 and the 3 are significant because they're non-zeros. What about this guy? Well, our rule is when there's a decimal and it's the last digit, it is also significant. So this one has 3 significant digits. Here we go again. The 4 and the 3, significant. This is the last digit, and there's a decimal place, so that last 0 is significant. Then what happens with this guy? Well, it's sandwiched between the 3 and the 4, so that's significant. So you have a total of 4 significant figures. Okay. Next one. Well, we know that 2 is significant. What about these guys right here? Are those significant? And the answer is no, they are not significant. And here's why. There's a decimal, but are they the last numbers? And the answer is no, they're not the last numbers, so they're just placeholders, so they don't count. What about these guys? Okay, our rule is there a decimal? And the answer is yes. Are the last digits zeros? And the answer is yes. So therefore, this last zero counts. Now what about that other pink zero that I've highlighted? And then this one would also count because now it's sandwiched. So the answer for this one is 3 significant digits. Okay, here we go. Here's another one. First rule, we know the 4 and the 5 are significant. Easy, straightforward. Okay, what do we know about these zeros? Well, we know that those zeros are also significant because they're sandwiched in between. Okay, what do we know now about this zero that I have highlighted with the yellow? What do we know about that guy? Well, the answer is there's a decimal and the last digit is 0. Have to have both of those. Since the last digit farthest to the right is a 0, it counts. So your answer is 5 significant zeros or significant figures. Okay, so here's what I need you to do. I want you to complete this page. Tell me how many significant digits there are. Underline them. 4 or 7, 4, 7, 4. There are 4 significant digits. What rules does it cover? Governs from rule 1, okay? Meaning they're all non-zeros. Number 2, how many significant digits are in number 2? Well, we have the 7 and the 7. That's straightforward. And then we have rule 2, which makes that 0 sandwich. So we have a total of 3 significant figures. And the rule number is 1. And then number 2, which is the sandwich rule. I'm just going to write SW for sandwich. Okay? Hope that makes sense of what you're supposed to do, and you kind of have an idea of how to do significant figures. Your job now is to finish the rest of these. I'll tell you when you get to these bottom ones right here, this back part, the exponent part, you ignore that part for significant figures and you only look at that number. Okay? Again, for this one, you ignore that bottom part and you only look at that number. Okay, so that should help. And then I'll keep going on to this page, finish that, and then I will hop on next to show you how to do calculations with significant figures.